Okay, hi students. So today I'm going to actually talk about water potential, one of the easiest sections in the syllabus. But most students, since they don't understand this concept, most of the times they actually miss most of the questions related to this. So therefore, I'm going to clarify the concept behind this. Once you understand the concept, it's water potential is not water potential equals solute potential plus pressure potential. Okay, so there's a concept behind that. Once you understand concept, it is really easy to make any sum. So therefore, let's start. So what is water potential? Before that, what is potential? So you know a potential of you, potential of a student, potential of a animal. So potential is ability to do a work, ability to do a work. Okay, if you go back to your O level, ability to do a work is also known as energy. Yes. So ability to do a work is also known as energy. So basically, your potential is an energy. So you know the term. If it is an energy, it can be any energy. So but water potential should be what kind of energy? Yeah. So the term itself implies the mechanism, so it should be a potential energy. But remember, so it can be a kinetic energy as well. Why? Any potential energy can be converted into a kinetic energy. But you know, potential energy is not equal to kinetic energy, but potential energy can be converted into a kinetic energy. Just like that, water's ability to do a work is the energy stored in the water molecules. So it is a kind of a potential energy, but due to that potential energy, a kinetic energy can be arise, but kinetic energy itself, not the water potential. Remember, what in your syllabus, as you have to remember, water potential is a kind of a potential energy. So now you know water potential is ability of water to do a certain work. Okay, now let's consider of a water compartment having just four water molecules like this. So this is a compartment of water. There are only four water molecules. Okay, so now we are going to add some solutes into this compartment of water. Here I have added salts, that means sodium. So you know when salt is added, that means sodium is added, that is an ion. So this is a polar molecule water. So obviously, if you know your chemistry, you know. So when you have sodium and water, obviously there will be interactions between these two molecules. What is that interaction? If I can remember my chemistry especially. So it is ion dipolar bonds. Okay, ion dipolar interactions. So due to that, these water molecules will interact with sodium molecules. So what happens to the amount of free water molecules? The amount of free water molecules in this compartment will be reduced because now here you have only two free water molecules. That means the water molecules without any interactions. These two water molecules have been interacted with the sodium. So now you can understand as soon as you add solute to a water compartment, the amount of free water molecule is decreased. So that means ability of water to do a certain work is also decreased. So that means water potential is also decreased. So this is in another term, scientifically we use some certain other terms and explain this. So you know when you add water, when you add sodium, sorry, when you add sodium, what happens to the solute concentration? That is your oral chemistry. What happens to solute concentration? Solute concentration is also increased. Obviously, it is increased. When the solute concentration is increased, we call it as solute potential is increased. That means the amount of solute is increased. Solute potential is increased. So now you know when the solute concentration increases, solute potential increases, but the amount of free water molecules decreases. So therefore, water potential is decreased. Understood? So therefore, you call as always water potential and solute potential are inversely proportional. It is inversely proportional. As soon as you increase solute potential, water potential is decreased. That is one thing that you have to know. That is the first factor affecting water potential. Then I'm going to talk about the second factor. That is, of course, the pressure. So you know, when pressure is increasing any compartment, pressure is increasing any compartment, what happens to the energy stored in that compartment? Obviously, the energy stored in that compartment is also increased. For example, just imagine if you have ever drunk, ever consumed a soft drink, okay, you know, Coca-Cola or anything. So what happens when you open the lid? As soon as you open the lid, the pressurized air oozes out. Okay, so it is because there is a very high pressure inside there. So it is there's a very high energy. That high energy is released as a kinetic energy. That's what happens there. So just likewise here. when you have a high pressure exerted into this compartment, what will happen? The energy stored in these water molecules is increased. So therefore, the ability of water to do a work is increased. So the water potential is also increased. Got the idea? Understood? So therefore, these are the two factors affecting the water potential. So therefore, depending on that, you build up an equation. That equation is water potential equals to solute potential plus pressure potential. Solute potential plus pressure potential. So you know this solute potential equals to solute concentration. That means homologous to solute concentration. Whenever solute concentration is increased, so water potential is decreased. So therefore, solute potential is always negative. This is always negative. Okay, then the pressure potential. As I mentioned, when the pressure is normally increased, what happens? The energy in the compartment is increased. So therefore, pressure potential should be positive. But remember, this is not always. Sometimes this can be negative because there is something called silent ascent of silence. Okay, if you want me to do a video about that, please comment below. But what happens in ascent of silence that you have a negative pressure potential. So therefore, pressure potential mostly positive but can be negative as well. So this is how this equation stands. So now you have to know water potential equals solute potential plus pressure potential with an understanding. If you have this understanding, then you can work out most of the sums. Okay, now let's see practically in a plant cell how this equation is applied. Practically in a plant cell how this equation is applied. Okay, so now let's see. So here you have the plant cell. Here you have a plant cell. So this is a cell wall. Okay, this is a cell wall. You can understand that. And this is the plasma membrane. This is the plasma membrane. So this is the cytoplasm. Plasma membrane, and this is the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm plus plasma membrane together called as, you know the term, is together known as protoplasm. Cytoplasm plus plasma membrane together known as protoplasm. Okay, got the idea? Okay. So then inside the protoplast, that means inside the cytoplasm, you obviously know what can you say about the solute concentration. So obviously solute concentration is very high. So if the solute concentration is very high, obviously solute potential is should be very low. Okay, sorry, should be very high. Solute concentration is very high. So the solute potential is also very high. So here you have a very high solute potential. Here you have a very high solute potential. Okay. So if the solute potential is high, what can you say about the water potential? Water potential should be low. But still we didn't talk about the pressure here. So what can you say about the pressure potential here? Okay. So imagine a scenario where this plasma membrane is actually detached from the cell wall. Plasma membrane is detached from the cell wall just like the diagram I have drawn here. So now imagine a situation where water is coming into the water is coming into this protoplast. Water is coming into this protoplast. Water molecule seeks into the protoplast. So now what happens? So this plasma membrane expands. Protoplast expands. Now this expands, and until there will be a one point, ultimately there will be a one point where this plasma membrane get attached to this cell wall. Once it get attached to this cell wall, it exerts a force on this cell wall. This plasma membrane exerts a force on this cell wall once this expand and get attached to this cell wall. Understood? Now, your physics. According to Newton's third law, when this plasma membrane exerts a force on the cell wall, the cell wall also exerts a force back into the plasma membrane plus cytoplasm. So that is the protoplast. So there will be a back force onto the protoplast. Then, when you have a force acting on a unit area, force acting on a unit area, you call it as the pressure. You call it as the pressure, exactly. So what happens? So this is force acting on a unit area. So now we have a high pressure here. So you call it as Turger pressure. The term you give is the Turger pressure. This is you call as Turger pressure. So this is basically the pressure potential inside the cell. So now you can understand pressure potential is due to the expansion of the cell membrane, and cell membrane attaches to the cell wall and exerts a force on the cell wall. Cell wall exerts a back force on the plasma membrane, so it creates a pressure inside the protoplasm. You call it as the turgor pressure, also the positive pressure. This is what the positive pressure inside the cell. So this is how practically inside the cell you have the pressure potential, water potential, and the solute potential. So solute potential plus pressure potential equals to water potential. So you know normally inside the cell you have a very high solute concentration. When you have a very high solute concentration, in most of the cells you have a very low water potential. Okay, so therefore most of the times in cell water potential is negative. Understood. So if you can understand that, so you can work out most of the things. Okay, now I'm going to ask several questions. I'm not going to explain anything using board. So now I want you to think. So what happens? Imagine now there's a cell like this, which is actually getting detached from the plasma membrane. So you know if it is getting detached from the plasma membrane, psi p obviously should be zero because there is no pressure, but there is a very high solute potential. So then what can you say about a scenario there? Water potential equals to solute potential plus pressure potential. So if the protoplasm is getting detached from the cell wall, what can you say about the pressure potential? So pressure potential is zero because there is no force acting on the cell wall and there is no force acting back on the plasma membrane. So therefore pressure potential is zero. But you have a solute potential. So therefore you can say water potential is equals to solute potential. Understood? Water potential is equal to solute potential. So these kind of a cell where plasma membrane is getting detached from the cell wall. Okay. So the plasma membrane has been detached from the cell wall. Those cells are known as flaccid cells. These cells are known as flaccid cells. Okay. Understood? Hmm. That is easy. Then now imagine you put the same cell, that means this flaccid cell, into water where you have 0 megapascal. Where you have 0 megapascal. That means actually I am referring to a water compartment having pure water. When you have pure water means, imagine, you must remember in pure water, water potential is 0. That is a fact that you have to remember. Pure water equals water potential 0. Okay, so now you put this flaccid cell into a water potential 0 compartment. That means pure water. So here you know inside this cell, the water potential is equal to solute potential. So that means obviously the water potential should be negative or positive. It must be negative because solute potential is always negative. Okay. So now imagine in this cell, so you have a water potential about -10. Then you put this cell into a water compartment having 0 megapascal. 0 megapascal. Hmm. Now what happens? Remember this. Water always moves from higher water potential to a lower water potential. It is very easy. So in this compartment, imagine you have only two free water molecules. Imagine there is another compartment having more free water molecules. So obviously, imagine now there are four water molecules here, uh, four free water molecules here. So one free water molecule will go here. So now here also you have three free water molecules. Here also now you have free water molecules. So likewise, when you have free water molecules elsewhere, so the excess free water molecules will go into the other compartment where you have you have low free water molecules. So just like that, water always moves from a higher water potential to a lower water potential. Okay. So therefore, when this cell is dipped inside water, where you have 0 water potential, water moves from this compartment into this cell. Now you have to think. Okay. So when water moves from this compartment into the cell, what happens? The cell expands, cell expands, and ultimately it will touch the cell wall. When it touches the cell wall, it will exert a force on the cell wall. cell wall exerts back pressure on the protoplast. So now inside the protoplast, psi p is no longer 0. So now the psi p will become positive. Okay, so that would be the first instance where psi p becomes positive. So here now the psi p becomes positive. Imagine now the psi p become positive 1. More water comes. More water comes. So now what happens? Psi p becomes positive 2 because it expands more. Psi p becomes positive 3. So it expands more and more and more and more and more. And ultimately, where will it stop? Remember, the water movement will stop ultimately when the water potential between two compartments will be when those compartments are equal. Water potential between two compartments are equal only the water flow is stopped. So now you know in this compartment water potential is 0. In this compartment the initial water potential is minus 10. So in order to become this as 0, so psi p also should be positive 10. So when you have psi p positive 10, psi is negative 10, then you will have psi w as 0. Got the idea? That is where actually you get psi w as 0. So in order to have psi w as 0, you should have psi p as plus 10. So therefore, now water comes in, this expands, initially it becomes plus 1, then plus 2, ultimately it becomes plus 10. When it becomes plus 10, what will happen to the psi? That means psi w. Water potential becomes 0. Now it becomes 0. So now you can build up another equation. So when this water potential is 0, so now you know psi s is equals to psi p. So you can say psi s is equal to psi p. Understood? Psi s is equal to psi p. Really easy. So in this state where psi w becomes 0 and the psi s, that means solute potential, equals to pressure potential, that time you call this cell as a fully turgid cell. You call it as fully turgid cell. Fully turgid cell. Okay. So this thing, this turgid cell, flaccid cell, then water potential, solute potential, all of these things are asked in MCQs and essays, also in structured essays, no, mostly in structured essays and MCQs, not in essays normally. So therefore, you should be very thorough with that. So there are another scenarios which is given in the resource book. So using this scenario, if you can understand this scenario, you can work out the other scenarios as well. But if you want more clarifications, feel free to comment in the comment section below, and also if there are any things in the syllabus which you want me to describe, feel free to comment in the comment section below, so I'll obviously use my free time to explain these to you. Okay, so hope you understand this water potential, and go and do the questions and you will understand more and more. So then enjoy learning. Okay, see you in another session. Thank you so much.